it's just one of those first-hand experience for clinicians to get into the field of academia, which is just it's a pretty hectic pathway. But if you want to if you want to take the leap of faith, it's kind of really worth it at the end of the day. And that's and not a lot of people have done this, so which makes it really different from my perspective to explain how things go on. So yeah, I did my BDS from College of Dental Sciences in Davangere. Um, but it was back in 2015, and I was from 2015 to 2019 batch, 2020-ish. So 2019 was when we did our internship. It was COVID, and things were not going as we expected it to. Most of us were at home, and few of us were called for COVID duties and stuff. So we kind of lost the first 6-ish, 7 months of our basically of our internship. And internship plays a really crucial aspect when it comes to shaping us as the next like really understanding how clinical dentistry works. Because before that, till final year, we hardly get any cases, and it's mainly about working with phantom heads and stuff. So unfortunately for our case, it was really bad. That kind of pushed me away from clinical dentistry for a while, but I did love the theoretical part of it, and well, technically, I still work on dentistry, so it just comes down to the translatory part of it. Um, yeah, so back then it was a bit different as well. So because we like in the field of dentistry, not a lot of people have reached into the academic perspective of things, and uh, I did have a chance to go to a bunch of conferences. Again, back then, you know how things are, the conferences, the locations that we choose. It's mainly to travel. So
Yes.
we choose places like Goa, Manali. We chose Hyderabad. We went
Yeah,
to
right.
Goa. We went to Manali, and we
The first
just
thing is
traveling
we
around.
will choose the place. After that, we will check for the conferences there.
Yeah, exactly. It's the place first, and then we really
Yes.
hope that there will be a conference in that place. Luckily for us, it goes there. So, but then, yeah, conferences went pretty smooth as well because it was the first time then I realized that there was a life outside the clinical aspect of things. There was something called academia where you can choose different set of careers and try to understand how things are. Yeah, it was one of those conferences in Goa that I went to where I spoke to a person who did his BDS and then did his PhD. So he told me about a prospect of doing certain set of careers in the field of academia, trying to understand how things are beyond clinical aspects. So I thought, all right, since the internship was not going as good as what I expected it to, I decided to step into the field of academia. But it's not easy to just apply for PhD positions, especially with absolutely no research experience, like zero research experience. My only experience was going to the conferences. So there's nothing else other than that. So I did my master's from an institute called Amrita Center for Nanosciences and Molecular Medicine in Kochi. So it's transformed into Amrita School of Nanosciences and Molecular Medicine. They've got one of those courses called M. It's basically an M.Tech course in cellular and molecular medicine. So it's a very big jump from dentistry because the last time I have even read about genetics was in class 12th, maybe maybe
Yeah.
11th. I don't even remember. So I just decided to, but then the 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 whole coursework has been set in such a way that you get both theoretical experience as well as practical experience, and also you get to work in a lab. You get to choose what your supervisor is, who your supervisor is, and if the supervisor works on something that you're really interested in, you can just go ahead. You don't necessarily have to work on molecular medicine, which makes it much more convenient. So they've got a collaboration with a university called the University of Arizona in the US. So it's a dual degree program where you get a M.Tech in molecular medicine, which will be more industry focused, and an MS in cellular and molecular medicine from the University of Arizona. So it's a very interesting combination of courses. It's very hectic. You have a lot of subjects to study in the first year. You will probably go crazy, but I think it's kind of really worth it at the end, I believe, because uh, in the second year you get to choose two options. Either the second year is it's purely research focused, so you get to choose a supervisor and you work as a super as a master's project student in India, or you work 6 months in India and 6 months in the US. So you get to choose one of the two options. But what I probably have to highlight one important aspect here is masters is very oriented to technique. So you don't have to go crazy with publications. You don't have to think, okay, this is the way to get a PhD. No, you don't have to focus on that. Just focus on your technique. Try to get some stuff out. try to understand the basics behind certain things, and that's probably one step towards PhD. So I worked on hydrogels and characterizing hydrogels and doing a bunch of antimicrobial testing on implants and stuff. So this allowed me to understand the characterization of hydrogels, like rheology and all the CMT, EMs and stuff.
Yeah.
And then obviously the antimicrobial testing and all the basic microbial stuff, which obviously I didn't know anything of. So yeah, and ended up doing that. Um, got my obviously I couldn't get it published. It's just a 1 year thing, masters. It's not easy to get stuff out. Uh, Although some of my batchmates did end up getting something out. Unfortunately, mine, yeah, there was a lot of complications, so it just didn't get done. So, but that kind of gave me enough experience to understand certain conceptuals. So I thought I'll probably kind of tailor my application CV on the basis of the things that I learned, rather than uh, telling them that okay, I've got all these publications, which obviously I had nothing. So here I was graduating from with a dual degree program with zero publications, just a bunch of experiences. So it was a very weird position to be in. Uh, so the technique focus thing kind of worked in my favor because um, post COVID, it was a dual degree program. I told you, right? The first one is an M.Tech in molecular medicine. So
Yeah.
the M.Tech part of it is industry focused. So I used my M.Tech and applied for a job. So I got a job in a Pfizer clientele. It's as a medical editor for 6-ish months. I was working, it was a work from home job. So I just had to, it was a med comms company. So I had to working on posters and other research papers that Pfizer basically produced. And we had to correct languages and basically a medical editor job.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I did that for 6-ish months while simultaneously applying for PhD positions. So this kind of gave me the time to start preparing for stuff. And it was work from home. So I was basically traveling around. I was in Goa, I was actually in Vagamon and just sitting and booking a student accommodation or something like that, or maybe a hostel. And then yeah, working from home and applying for PhD positions simultaneously. It was a really good phase because I knew it's not going to come back again because I had enough free time to do
Yeah.
stuff. Uh, yeah, so that went on pretty well. And initially, obviously, you know how PhD applications go. You don't have enough experience. Your cold emails are very cold, such that no one even replies back to you. And over a span of time, you try to understand why you've made mistakes. So that's another thing that I wanted to highlight to people who want to apply for a PhD position. Focus on three integral aspects of what you apply. One is your CV. The CV has to be of it has to be simplistic yet informative. Go with the Harvard style and keep things to the minimum, but also make sure you include as much as information as you possibly can. And that's a really crucial aspect as well. um, motivation letter motivation letter is has to be personalized. You have to know about the group. You need to understand what you can possibly contribute to the group, and it has to be tailored to the particular position that you're applying to. So this is very unique to Australia because Australia is very cold email focused. You can't, like, even if you go to Indeed or Seek, you'll probably find positions, but you won't get it because the internal recruitment has already happened. And the third one is obviously the email that you compose. The three-part email that you need to focus on. You initially start off by introducing yourself, tell them that you worked on this, and then go with the second part where you do some research about the group. Go to the person's lab website or go to Google Scholar, understand the kind of publications that they've had, the PI has had, and yeah, then go back, do some research, read their paper, mention the paper in the email, tell them that okay, you've read through one of their papers and you've really loved it, and I kind of work in the same area as that of yours, so I'm really interested to be a part of this. Blah blah blah. Ask for PhD positions. So that kind of worked in my favor because this increased the possibility for me to get a response on time, because initially it was like less than 1%. 700 emails probably get like less than one response in
Yeah.
return. Yeah, but then that improved to almost 20-30%. I was actually getting a lot of responses. um, Came down to like a few interviews. One from the University of Arizona itself, they offered me a translatory PhD position, but then there was, you know how things go with US, there's some issue with
Yes.
funding and stuff. They pulled things out last moment. Things didn't go the way it's supposed to. uh, there was one from Germany as well, where it was a big consortium grant, 15 million. They were recruiting like 15, 16 PhDs. um, it came down to me and another student from Iran. but unfortunately, she got the position because of humanitarian issues, whatever was going on in Iran back then as well. But things were very different in Australia. The interview sessions were also very different as compared to that of US. So if you focus on the interviews as to what I had, US is very technical oriented. I was thrown with almost 50, 60 questions during my interview sessions in the US, very technical oriented. Australia, and maybe from your experience, you'll be knowing it as well. It's pretty laid back.
Yeah. In
You
my case, I had no interview actually before
See,
my.
look at that. That's way more laid back than what you can expect.
Yeah.
For me, it was very chill. The supervisor was having a sip of his coffee. He just said, "How's it going?" Yeah, it's going really good. And just present your research. My research went on really fast because by then I was really tired of interviews. It was 4:30 in the morning in India, and he booked the
Yeah.
meeting. Then I didn't complain. But I said yes to it. It was all right. But then it went very smooth. I presented my research, and yeah, he was really impressed, and things went really smooth, and ended up getting the position than like much more faster than what I expected, because the Germany one was like 4 interviews, the US one was 3 interviews, and this was just one step into position as soon as possible. Yeah, it was much smoother than what I expected. Got into the position. um, I think it's been almost 3 years now, 2 years, 7-ish months, and I'm 4 months away from submitting my thesis. Actually, it's been one of the best experiences that I've ever had. That brings me back to another point that I need to reiterate, because as someone who comes from a developing country, we apply for a lot of positions. Then we are really desperate to get to a PhD position. But
Yeah.
uh, so the problem is, we have to do our own research before we accept a position. It has to be mutual. You just can't. I've seen a lot of friends of mine, a lot of colleagues of mine, really, they come to another country, they leave their families, and they really struggle here for 3 years because they've had a very toxic PI or a toxic group with which they've been working on. uh, I think the point that I needed to reiterate was, do your own research, talk to certain postdocs or PhDs before you accept the position, because it's a marathon, not a sprint. It's a pretty long term commitment, and one of the major group of people that will play an important role in your PhD are your peers and obviously your PI. And if they're bad, you're just going to have a really bad experience in here. So it was kind of good for me. Things were very good because I did speak to one PhD before I accepted this position. The Germany one, I spoke to a postdoc, and that guy gave a pretty lame response. To be honest, he said there's a lot of hierarchy going on in our group. Please don't join. That was what he basically said.
Yeah.
But I was kind of happy that I didn't get that position. But this was really good. 3 years in, one of the smoothest PhDs I've ever had. 11 publications, 5 first author. We've co-founded a company as well, so we're going to start our clinical trials next year. So yeah, it's been a fantastic experience for me so far.
Oh, that's great. You explain almost everything.
And I try to make it as conceptualized as possible.
Yeah, yeah, right. So is it very easy? So what do you think, in your opinion? Is it easy to get a PhD position after BDS?
Right after BDS, I would say
Yeah.
no. It's
Mm-hmm.
not easy. You definitely need a master's. I have
Yeah.
another friend of mine from the UK. So he was my batchmate while we were doing BDS together. So after BDS, he got into Glasgow in Scotland, and he did a master's over there. So I don't remember what the master's was, but he did a master's, and now he's doing a PhD in Aberdeen University. So it's a UK RI project. Um, in collaboration with Imperial and Aberdeen, I reckon. So he has to travel both ways.
Yeah.
But it's a very good project. So you definitely need a master's. I don't. You can probably try. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but
Yeah.
it's going to be tougher. No. Yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea about BDS. Are you doing any project during your final year or something?
Oh, no, 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 no. I don't
No.
think. I think the MBBS guys do any project per se,
Yeah.
because it's
Then
it's
it
it's for masters.
Yeah, then it will be difficult, right? Because we don't have any research or project experience to ask a PI to get a position.
The thing that's the problem. That's why we have
Yeah.
to do a masters. We have to do something to show our research experience.
Yeah, right, right, right. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, how's your experience so far in RMIT?
RMIT as a university is really good. I've had no complaints so far. One of the
Yeah.
biggest advantages of RMIT is, unlike other universities, is we've got something called as an RMMF. RMMF is RMIT Microscopy and Microanalysis Facility, which is owned by RMIT. So all the SEMs, TEMs. So if you have noticed in most universities,
Yep.
these instruments are owned by individual groups, right? So you
Yes.
have to ask their permission, get into the lab, lot of bureaucracy. This is not like that. So you tag RMIT into your papers, RMMF or MNRF. They've got multiple options here. So and RMIT owns the instruments. So if something screws up, you don't have to be overly tensed because the university takes care of it up to a limit. But then yeah, that's kind of a big advantage in research because you don't have to bother other groups. But also getting a time in one of those instruments is really tough because it gets booked out really fast.
Yeah. Yeah. People usually book for maybe for many days like that, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's the problem. It's like specific groups keep like booking for weeks and weeks, and it gets sold out for a month, 2 months.
Yeah.
So you have to go to the other branch in Bandura to get stuff done. But it's okay. It's still a part of it's also RMIT, so we just have to travel a bit. That's it.
Yeah, true. Here at Monash University, I think it is a little expensive than the unis. Every 1 hour we have to pay at least $50 like that. But
Oh,
yeah, we are not paying, but our fund, that is
okay.
it will deducted from the professor's fund actually.
Oh, okay, okay. Oh, all right.
Yeah,
Huh.
if our group owner sorry own something, so that
Yeah,
time it will be easy for us. But most probably, you know that a CM kind of equipment, it is not easy
yep,
to own by a group, right?
yeah.
It's too
It's very
expensive,
expensive.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
RMMF kinds of so RMMF is partly funded by some of the supervisors' funds as well. So a part of my supervisors' funds per year goes to the development of RMMF, like the advancement. So it's kind of a catch-22 situation, but it's okay. It still works out pretty well.
Right, right. So, so do you want to give any suggestion to the PhD aspirants out there?
Definitely take the leap of faith. That's what I keep telling. Like people are very hesitant to, especially clinicians are very hesitant. You can't blame them because they've been studying for really long. And people often ask you questions, how long? I've been asked so many questions about that. My parents still ask me that question at times. How long are you planning on studying? You're turning 30, you're turning 31. Because this never ending, and I have to constantly remind my friends and relatives that it's not exactly studying, it's more of
Yeah.
working at this point. It is an employment, you are getting paid. So obviously it's not as high as things are, but it's still all right, to be honest. It's just the constant reassurance that yeah, if you've got enough people backing you, and if you want to take the leap of faith, it's really worth it. You can use your PhD to get into industry at a later stage. No one's going to stop you from doing that, or get into entrepreneurship. So we've started a company, so you can do stuff. You've got a lot of you've got way higher options than just the basic MBBS, BDS, or Ayurveda, or whatever degree you've got. So that's probably one of those things that I need to tell people. Like, get the motivation, get the inspiration to start thinking out of the box and not just stick to your narrow-minded things of how things are going in back in our country. Yeah,
Yeah. That's really a good advice. So what is your plan actually? You're about to submit your thesis, right?
yeah.
So after that,
So I've applied for a few. So we've got a breakthrough Victoria fellowship over here coming up. So that's an entrepreneurship fellowship, which will allow me to work as a commercial postdoc for a couple of years. Technically a postdoc, but it's more focused towards the development of the company. We've got a company going on. So yeah, I'll focus on the development of company, try to bring it on to the next stage. It's currently at a technology readiness level, actually level 5. So we just want to push it much further and bring the product out to the market. Yeah, it's we'll see where it goes. I've got multiple avenues open, so we can
yeah,
go anywhere. So just keeping one option ready, another backup option next to it. Yeah, we'll see what happens.
that's great. Yeah. So at last, are you missing something to tell the audience? Just asking
Uh,
if you
I
remember
think yeah, I
something.
think I've pretty much covered most of the parts. It's just it's a long term process. You have to. It's not easy. Rejections are a common part of it. I was rejected. I was really unhappy when I got rejected from the German. Later I was happy, but initially I was really sad. I was
Yeah.
so sad that I went for a solo trip and I was like sitting and doing nothing for a while, super depressed. So it is a part of life. Obviously you won't get your first PhD in your first application. Things require a lot of tweaking, but I think you will after a stage. It's more of the hustle which gives you the position at the end of the day. You gotta keep trying again and again.
Yeah, right. We have to try again and again to get a position.
100%.
I also got rejected many times.
It's a very sad experience.
Yeah, true, true. So yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Srihari, for
Happy to
sharing your
help. More than happy to
experience.
help.
Yeah, thanks.